always, as we are going to break down everything that is BUCS, and we'll keep you up to date with some contact news as well. We'll get into the news first, and then we'll start looking into the results that were this weekend in the quarterfinals across the patch, and then also the semi-finals that are going to take place this weekend, including obviously the national championship as well, which we'll see post-season for the first time this season. And it's all ramping up really nicely towards Touchdowns Tuesday, which is happening in a couple of weeks' time. I'm starting to lose my marbles as to where we are in time, but presumably it's not next week, the week after, if my if my perception is correct. But we've got plenty to talk about, including some developing news that we brought you last week involving the London Warriors, a London team actually being involved in the European leagues, in the American Football League of Europe, which has not been named yet, but two and two together and all that. Isaac's in the chat because he's not with us, and he's away in sunny, beautiful Stoke, isn't he? Where his beloved Bradford City are travelling to Port Vale, of all places. So, I'm sure he said it was Port Vale anyway. But anyway, I am not.
Well, yeah.
I'm not keeping track of Port Vale's fixtures and Bradford's fixtures, but presumably that's where he is anyway. So yeah, absolutely, just me and you this weekend. This week, as we break down all things that are BUCS. I suppose we've got to get into a little bit of the news before we start breaking down the BUCS brackets and so on. So we spoke to you last week, and we obviously brought the news of the London football team joining the American Football League of Europe, the AFLE, which is a shock to everybody, and also along the news of London Warriors pulling out of the Premiership South, leaving us with 5 teams across in both divisions. Since then, that has now been confirmed by the league, and also their fixtures are out as well in the American Football League of Europe. They've got to play 5 on the bounce. So if you haven't seen it, it got announced by the League Europe is the Instagram handle that they use, and this London football team starting week 1 at home to the Roclaw Panthers, and then they go 5 on the bounce from the 24th of May, which is something that doesn't happen often in British American football, that's certainly in domestic leagues, and all of a sudden they are going 5 on the bounce. So home to Roclaw, travelling to rain, fire. And then it's at home to the Alpine Rams, which is a new team. Then it's at home to the Firenze Red Lions, again, a new team. And then they are hosting the Vienna Vikings, 2 ELF national champions coming to visit over the first 5 weeks. That'll be some schedule to watch, won't it, from afar?
It will. Welcome to the league, guys, and especially with only having like 4 or 5 weeks to get yourself ready. I hope that they've managed to tempt in some really good imports, as well as the British talent that they will no doubt keep or attract from our British game and the soils. But yeah, whoever it is, in whatever name or guise or colour, yes, good luck to you. We will definitely be following and sharing more AFLE content than we have done ELF in the past, simply because it's a British team, and that's what we're here for. And if we can, we shall try and get some footage. We'll try and get to a couple of games if we get weekends off, and yeah, certainly try and find out where they're playing so that we can share it with you guys, so you can get your hands on tickets, get yourself down to London, assuming that's where they're going to play, wherever that is, and you can enjoy some semi-pro or even fully professional football on these soils for the first time in 3 decades, maybe even longer potentially. Yeah, good to think about, interesting to see, and something that we're really looking forward to getting our claws into and covering as well.
Yeah, 100%. And we just keep on waiting for further developments as that comes up, but also in and around the league as well, because part of the news, which is actually that we've got no news, is that we don't have any official updates from BAFA at this point around fixtures for the domestic leagues. I think we do have some out, don't we? We have the under-19 D1. I think that went out. NWFL sevens, I think I saw most recently. But we still haven't heard of NWFL nines. We haven't heard about the mixed adult, and there's also under 19 D2. I think is a challenge as well, isn't it? But I think the one thing that we are hearing is that it might still change again. Health checks were last Friday, and don't pass that with flying colours by Friday. Good luck to you, I suppose. But yeah, there is still concerns around potential other teams not making the cut for this summer. Is that right, Stuart?
Yeah, that's exactly why we haven't gone public and gone live with our fixture graphics, is that we keep hearing that certain teams may well not make the health checks. Obviously, if they haven't made it on Friday day or Friday afternoon, whenever the cutoff is, how long do you then give them? Like, should you just cut them straight away and say, well, actually, that's your cutoff? Thank you, bye. Or do you sort of work with that team to try and make the best of a bad situation? I mean, health checks are there for a reason, right? You've had sort of 3 months to get you guys signed up, registered, paid, what have you, insured. If you're still struggling by March, is it something that you potentially have to think about and look at other teams around you and see what you can do? But until we know for sure and we have the fixtures in our inboxes, we're not going to publish them, because they will probably change. And even when we do publish them, hopefully they won't need an asterisk against them saying these fixtures are likely to change. It'll just be the teams that potentially move them around based on their home venue availability or weather or referees availability, potentially, if you want to move a game to try and get better referee availability. I don't know, but yeah, it's all very much up in the air as it is at the moment.
Haven't seen anything like it.
No, same.
Not in my time anyway. I know we've had difficulties with fixtures in the past, and obviously people have not met health checks and stuff like that in the past before as well. But I've never seen us get to the 11th of March without a fixture list. It's just incredible, and obviously wouldn't have been helped by the news of the London Warriors last week either. Health checks won't help that. As a fan, this is a concerning time, isn't it? Obviously, as someone who's trying to provide information and tell the community what they need to, what they kind of want to and need to know, it's very frustrating. But just as a fan, to know that we're on the 11th of March and still don't have confirmed fixtures for multiple formats this year, in which in most years will be starting in 3 weeks' time. Easter's usually the cutoff, and Easter's not so far away now, is it? So yeah, very concerning. Do you read into this deeper than this has just been a crazy off season, Stuart, or is this? Do you think there's more to this? What's your gut feeling as an outsider looking in? What's your feeling towards why we're seeing it this year?
I think it is mostly what you said. I think it's sort of 90% that. I think 10% are other factors, obviously, with the London Warriors pulling out lastminute.com and teams not meeting health checks, here or there. We have seen copies of fixture lists. We've seen a lot of teams release theirs. So it might be that they are set and they are happy. And we're just sort of holding on to what we have because we haven't had full sign off for all leagues across all divisions for like mixed adult, for example. We don't know what's going on with the Prem South, so we just haven't released any of them. Whereas we probably could release, a handful of the Division 1 and Division 2 because we know what's going on. I think the whole conversation around were they going to scrap Division 2 this year or move it over to next year, and that whole discussion. I also think that didn't help the mixed adult. And that would have had a knock on to U19 because a lot of teams double head. And if, teams were going to move up to Division 1 and were potentially looking at whether they play or not, that could potentially affect under 19 Division 1. So, yes, I think there are more layers to this, but, ultimately it is a bit of a shame that, as you say, we're 5 weeks away. I think 19th of April is one of, I think it's U19 are scheduled. I just flicked up on my spreadsheet. I think U19 are scheduled for the 19th of April. So if that's like the first week, we've got what, 5 weekends, 5 weeks or 4 weekends, which, pushing it a little bit tight if you want to try and drum up some support.
I know, 100%. Let alone those hosting game days and flag and so on. I know we've got some flag fixtures and so on, but it's disconcerting times if you're running a club. But obviously, there, as someone who has volunteered for BAFA as well, I wouldn't like to be them right now, but also you kind of want them to just take the ball by the horns and crack on with it, don't you really? But I think let's tie a bow in that for now, and move on to some more positive news in the BUCS season, which is obviously kicking on at the rate of knots, and Touchdown Tuesday is right round the corner, isn't it? Should we have a look? Anything more to get to? I don't think there was anything else since last week. Was there just the ever evolving news that is Europe, and then obviously the fact that we still don't have any news on BAFA?
Pretty much.
Great. Let's have a look then at the first of all, as always, we go into the Prem National. So we have the National Championship about to take place in the semi-finals this weekend, which is the Durham Saints hosting Loughborough and UWE Bullets hosting the Nottingham Gold, 1 versus 4 and 2 versus 3. So Stuart, there's plenty to talk about here when it comes to what we've seen in the past, certainly this year, how these have gone in the past in previous years, and your expectations as well. So where do you want to start with this? Where does your preview hat take you when you're thinking about the Loughborough versus Loughborough, UWE, Durham and Gold matchups?
We normally go chronologically, don't we? And I know that UWE Nottingham is happening on Saturday rather than Sunday. They're playing at Hillside Gardens this time. They're not at Dings Crusaders like they were for the sort of bigged up game, let's call it that, where Notts lost their QB, which effectively cost them in that Durham game at the end of the season, I think it was, wasn't it? And it'll be interesting to see what Nottingham have conjured up in the last 2 or 3 weeks, knowing that they're not going to have that quarterback back. What sort of offense they've managed to tie together, what pieces they've been able to put together on defense after that drubbing that they took up in Durham. And it'll just be interesting to see what happens. I believe it's being live streamed, so as soon as we know that, we'll share links out with you guys across the community. But I don't think I can look past UWE winning that match just based on what we know has happened with the Gold team and their injuries and their sort of patchwork roster that they're potentially going to put out at Hillside Gardens on Saturday. And then I think almost rinse and repeat for Durham versus Loughborough. Durham have shown that they really, really mean business this season, whether that's through their recruitment, whether that's through the performances they've put on the field. But I just think that they're going to prove too tough for Loughborough, especially with the travel that Loughborough have to do getting up to Durham. I just think that the Saints are going to prove too strong for I was going to say the purple of Loughborough. I think it's like purpley pink, but sometimes they play in grey. So, I just think that we're going to see UWE and Durham come out on top of both.
Interesting. And I mean, a 56-point victory over Gold only 2 weeks ago kind of tells us two things, really, doesn't it? It confirms your point that Durham aren't messing around. It potentially suggests also that Gold are in a bad place right now. Is there a potential of a playing possum here for Gold? from everything that I've heard, certainly Isaac has told us that, you know, potentially they're putting all their eggs in the green basket now rather than the gold. Doesn't sound very Jason Scott to me. That sort of approach to things, but UE, other than their loss in the travel to Durham, UE have only shown positive signs in the last half of this season, haven't they? They beat Gold 26-0 only, what's that, 3-4 weeks ago in this exact matchup. Do we see it going any other way?
I don't think so. I mean, you know, spoiler alert for the next couple of graphics is that Green lost to Edinburgh Napier Knights. So if Gold did want to sort of bring up a few of the Green team, they could do. But, you know, what do you want to do? Do you want to continue with the roster that you've had over the last 6 months or so? Or do you want to just bolster your roster and put Tom, Dick, and Harry in when they might just ride the bench and get 2 or 3 reps, depending on, and you know, what practice they've had. So who knows? We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm not sure that I can. Not sure I can see Gold. I can see them, you know, competing, and they will put points on the board. But I just don't. I just think that UE are going to be too strong in everything that they've done, in everything they want to show this season. Yeah, I just think that UE are going to be too strong for them.
Mr. Astley asks a very important question of the week, which is, why are you in a prison cell?
Yeah, part of this hotel feels like it. When I knew I was coming back to Hinckley this week, I was like, yeah. And then I came round to my hotel room and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So yes, it's a little bit of a downgrade from a few of the hotel rooms I've had, but work are paying for it. It's not coming out my pocket. I had a nice dinner though, so it was all right.
Very good. Yeah, we're fortunate to have you. You're out on remand, and fortunately, your bail wasn't set too high. We were able to afford you to be here this week. Brilliant. Thanks for the comment, Sam. Yeah, so it feels the way that we're going to see a Durham versus UE final, doesn't it? And then we can all talk about how that may or may not go, because we've got plenty of history of that and to talk about as well, haven't we? But something's just holding me back completely, discounting the Nottingham Gold, considering the coaching staff, the storied franchise, and so on. But hey, you know, that'll just be maybe some hesitancy rather than some and lack of confidence rather than anything else. So let's have a look then at the VARs. Which is obviously the rest of the Prem competition. So reviewing where we are, we obviously had the first round of this brackets where we had Brunel come victorious over Newcastle to then set up a matchup against Warwick, who beat Cardiff to get here, and then Portsmouth surprised in inverted commas the number 1 seed by beating them and setting up a home tie against SGS Pride, who overcame Northumbria in the end. So this weekend we see those matchups: Brunel versus Warwick and Portsmouth versus SGS. Where does your eyes take you in this? You know, it feels to me it's the right hand side of that bracket where we've now got Portsmouth hosting a semi-final. Which is not something anyone probably would have predicted if we were doing a bracketology ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one that catches my eye. I think upset alert could be on the left-hand side. Warwick always have close games. I think their biggest points differential was when they played Northumbria and won 24-7. I am just quickly flicking down the spreadsheet. And yeah, I think that's the biggest points differential. So it'd be interesting to see whether that sort of fearsome Warwick defense can hold the Brunel offense. The Northumbria, just double checking I'm saying it the right way around. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew I was getting it wrong. That's why I hesitated. The Newcastle defense for pretty much the first quarter, to be honest, came out and were really stymie against the offense. Whether that was the rust burdened offense of Brunel, or whether it was because Newcastle had really done their homework, really knuckled down. I know there were a few execution errors. I'm stumbling on my words tonight. I'm not sure what's going on. Yeah, it's not the Wi-Fi. This is like me having buffering issues. They had some execution errors on offense, did Brunel. So yeah, again, Depth Chart Sports are live streaming it. So if you've got nothing better to do with your Sunday, you can sort of flick over to them when we get the live stream. I'll share it as well. So yeah, that'll be a really interesting watch to see, again, whether the Warwick offense can also execute. We know their defense are stymied. We know that they could potentially upset the Brunel offense. It'll just be whether that Warwick Wolves offense can really get going. And I know that they like their run game, and on a pitch like Site 5 is, whether that run game will be effective, that'll be another interesting to see factor in that fixture.
The most interesting fixture out of all this is the Brunel Warwick, because we haven't seen it before, have we? This is the only fixture that we haven't seen, and unfortunately, the final will be a rematch of two games. Well, one if you talk about SGS, but it'll be a rematch of games that we've seen already this year, which is just the way it's gone, and it just shows you how much more how much stronger the Southern Division was this year compared to the North, and we kind of saw that throughout, didn't we? The cream of the crop of the South were certainly in our eyes better than the cream in the North. We just didn't know by how much, and actually having all three. Having three of the four in the semi-finals just shows you how much stronger it was. Yeah. So I'm really, really interested to see whether Warwick's defense is ready for that run game of Brunel, because that'll be a tough ask in a Warwick defense that averaged 11 points, give or take, average points against in the regular season. So certainly not by no means a poor defense. But they come up against an offense that has scored an average of 36 points a game. So that's a totally different beast that they'll be travelling to this weekend. And then obviously we've seen the Portsmouth SGS game twice, haven't we already? Did you go over the results? 'Cause, we had, this one was 19-0 to SGS in the third week of the season. So the expectations are that it'll be something similar, but Portsmouth have gotten stronger, haven't they, throughout the season? And they won't be expecting to be here.
Yeah, they have. The game at Filton was 42-0 to SGS. So, Filton...
They haven't scored against SGS.
SGS did a real number on them in that second game. And as you just said, Portsmouth haven't scored against them. But... again, you've kind of built this up a little bit. Portsmouth have got progressively better, and then the last few games of the season, they put 44 points up against Exeter. Yes, Exeter were having their own struggles. They put 12 on Cardiff. They put 6 on Brunel, which is again no mean feat based on what Brunel's defense did to a lot of teams this season. So, yeah, it could be an upset alert. Whether it will be, I'm not entirely sure. For me, I think it kind of depends on how SGS travel. I know we mentioned this in a lot of the games, but from Bristol down to Portsmouth on a Sunday, I still can't look past SGS if I'm really honest. Portsmouth guys will probably at me and probably use it as bulletin board material, but sometimes that's what us media guys are here for, right?
Well, they're the two weakest offenses left in the bracket. SGS scoring just over 17 points a game. Portsmouth scoring just over 13 points a game. It could be a close tie just because of the low scoring. I'd be interested in an over under of 42, 45, and probably mostly going under. Probably.
I think I'd probably go under on that.
Yeah. Would if I set it at a 27, something like that? Would you go over?
Yeah, I think I had 28 in my head because that's one touchdown a quarter. period. So yeah, I think at 28 I might be tempted to go over, because SGS put 34 points on in the quarterfinal versus scored 36, if I remember correctly. We had a ridiculously high scoring set quarterfinals, didn't we? So yeah, I think 28 I'd probably go over. But yeah, if we talk, I don't think we see much higher than 35, because that's just another touchdown on top. I think 42 is probably where we max out. So yeah,
let's see how it goes anyway. But yeah, no, very interested to see it. I think me and you will both be surprised if it's not a Brunel SGS final. But
yeah,
very happy to be surprised. It's no knock on the other two, but that would be our prediction. I'm sure we'd see that as a final. If we were in the business of putting our predictions out there, that's it, isn't it? Let's have a little look at the trophy then. Again, a very busy graphic, this one, because it is so big. We'll take it down relatively quickly, but just to go over where we're at, we're going to see Lancashire versus Edinburgh Napier 1 versus 2 on this side of the bracket, because Lancs overcame MMU and the Tyrants, so 2 rematches to bring themselves into this semi-final matchup. Edinburgh Napier overcame Glasgow and Notts Green to make their way here. All very close scores, it must be said, considering the dominance of these two teams throughout the season. Obviously, Edinburgh Napier did not play that Glasgow game. Then we will see Hearts hosting Bournemouth. Hearts overcame Birmingham and Oxford Brookes on the way to the semi-finals, and then Bournemouth, who are not a 6 seed, even though they are a 6 seed. Don't forget they had the 7 points deduction from an admin error the year before. They overcame Bristol and KCL to find themselves in this matchup this weekend. Stuart, take us through it. What are you thinking this weekend? These are probably, in my mind, the 2 tastiest matchups this weekend. If you were to give me these 2 matchups, I'd have taken them all day long. Except, I suppose, the Lancashire thing, the asterisk that goes alongside Lancashire at the moment.
Yeah, I think we've ended up with the 2 strongest teams on both sides of this bracket in the semi-finals. Sorry, Nottingham Green. Sorry, KCL. Probably sorry, Oxford Brookes. You guys have had fantastic seasons. Don't get me wrong. But I just feel like these 4 teams were probably what we were going to end up with in the semi-finals. We don't give the Scottish game a lot of coverage because we're a million miles or 1,000 miles. I think he had to walk, didn't he? From a lot of Scotland games. However, we did get a bit of a rundown from a few people that were at the game, and they have said that it was super tense throughout. The first half was just a lot of sort of head-butting together, coaches trying to work against each other. There was a few turnovers. Nottingham went for broke on 4th down instead of a field goal. Napier made a field goal, and Nottingham were tending to drive with a lot of purpose, but just not a lot of finish. The second half, again, Notts drove pretty well, and they got down to a 4th and 1 with about 10 seconds left, and again sort of rolled the dice wanting to win the game. But the pass was broken up. So, really good to get sort of insight into games that we're not at. And we sort of really appreciate people sending stuff through. So thank you for guys that sent stuff through on that one. And yeah, I think with everything that was kind of going on with green and gold, we don't know the rosters. We don't see the rosters. It's not like published like NCAA and celebrated widely. So we don't know what sort of went on with that, but I think that I kind of thought Edinburgh would do a job on them. Did I think it was going to be that close? No. I think Green really did a fantastic job, one, travelling up there and keeping it ridiculously competitive, having taken a team up to sort of Newcastle from the Midlands. It's a horrible journey that takes its toll. So yeah, and again, they played on a grass field. When I took my team up, we played on 3G up in Newcastle. So yeah, to play on a grass field, we've seen plenty of photographs from community photographers. And it looks like the field held up fairly well. It's just we don't know what was underfoot. We do know, however, that Lancs are still sort of reeling and struggling from QB1's injury. They did manage to put up a few more points this week. They put up 16 instead of 5 over the Tyrants. Both of them, I believe, were passing touchdowns, if I remember correctly from watching stories at the weekend. So, their QB2 is sort of starting to click. Will they click enough to beat Napier on sort of home turf? I don't think so. It'll be a fantastic game, and sort of I wish I could get up to. I was going to call it the University of Central Lancashire playing fields, but I don't think it's called that anymore. But that would be a fantastic game to get to and watch, as would Hearts versus Bournemouth on the other side of the bracket, because Hearts have had they've kind of gone under the radar a little bit. I know we were tipped off to say that they could potentially have a really good season, and that has transpired. They really have had a fantastic season. But if you look underneath them, there's another team that have gone unbeaten this season, and I'm pretty sure they went unbeaten last season as well, didn't they? Up until the
This time.
final. The semi-final last year as well, wasn't it?
I thought so.
So, a team that are perennial winners and will want to go all the way this season, sort of looking back on the way that last season finished for them. So that's going to be another juicy tie. And again, I think whatever over under you give me for both of these games, I'm probably going to struggle.
I know that, and this is the thing, is because there's, as much as that rundown that you've just given gives you a really good overview, there's lots of question marks, isn't there? Edinburgh haven't travelled this far this year. They've been either in and around Scotland or have hosted the one, obviously would have hosted the two. So that what challenge are they going to have travelling? Lancashire obviously have a QB issue. I said it 2 weeks ago, if there was ever a coaching team that could get a second QB ready and get better in the weeks gone by, it's the Lancashire staff, effectively made up of very good national championship winners in the Manchester Titans as well. So I'd certainly put money on them to get better. Coach Sam Stoddart said on Instagram that it was a fantastic standard of football, Napier versus University of Nottingham, and the score didn't reflect the quality of football. And you know what? You wouldn't expect anything less from two very good sides, two very good tier one sides that all of us, on average, they've been up there in the writers' poll, haven't they? Because we've all thought, well, these are probably Prem sides lurking in tier one, and if they were playing in the Prem, they would be doing a really good job. So, really looking forward to that tie, to see how that comes. How do Edinburgh travel, and what issues are Lancashire going to have with some of the losses that they've had? And Bournemouth haven't conceded in the playoffs yet. That's a really tough team coming to Hertfordshire, and Hertfordshire are going to have their hardest game of the season, and two incredibly juicy matchups that are going to lead us. Unfortunately, it's going to lead us with two teams left, and we'd be happy with any of them in the final. Do you want my prediction?
Go on. I didn't ask for it, but give it to us.
I think it's going to be Napier Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Do you think we see Lancs and Hearts?
In honesty, no. I think Hearts are probably more likely than Lancs, simply because of what we know about the squad makeup. But yeah, I think Hearts I think Bournemouth have grown and grown over the last couple of seasons. I think they're sort of battle tested. They're mentality warriors. They know what they're going to need to do. And I have no doubt that Coach Rains is going to sort of really work on his experience as well, and sort of really pull on that sort of, okay, guys, sort of now or never. Let's really work on it and get over the hurdle of this sort of semi-final jinx. And also, let's not forget that the winners of these two are promoted to the Premiership, North and South respectively, this season as well. It's not like they have to win the final. The final is just almost bragging rights, as it were, to be the champion. But yeah, the winners of these two are promoted outright, which will also dictate whether there are some long travels in the Premiership North next season, with teams heading up to Edinburgh.
And Joe Rolls on Instagram completely disagrees with the prediction, but that's because we've got to pick two, isn't it? So all you can do is go out and prove us wrong, obviously. But no, nonetheless, whoever makes it into the final deserves to be in the final. There's no, these four teams are Prem teams waiting to be in the Prem. Is it going to be this year, or are you able to reload and go again next year if you're not so successful? It's been a fantastic season. Let's see if you can cap it off with promotion, and I can't wait to see what the result is come Sunday, and to see which one of these four sides have made it up into the Premiership. Can't wait. Let's move on to the Conference Cup then, the northern one to start off with, where we have the semi-final matchup again. Just to run through where we got to for our listeners. So we've got Cambridge versus Coventry in the first semi-final. Cambridge overcame Sunderland to get this matchup, where Coventry beat Hull to get there as well. York faced DMU in the quarterfinals, and they will be facing Lancaster Bombers, who took it and them and some more to LJMU Fury, beating them 45-2. I suppose we've got to talk about the quarterfinals here as well, haven't we? Because they were last weekend as well. So take us through it, Stuart. We've got two very good matchups. Unfortunately, a game that we've already seen in the Cambridge and Coventry game, but that York Lancaster will be very interesting, won't it?
Yes. Sort of, we're more sort of reviewing the games from last weekend, because the Conference Cups get a weekend or two off before these semi-finals come up. But it turns out that the coin toss pretty much just decided who won that division. And had we have seen that game between the Lancaster Bombers and the LJMU Fury during the season, it probably would have gone the way that we thought it would have done, based on this quarterfinal in the bottom right-hand corner of the graphic, when the Bombers came out 45-2 winners over the Fury. I don't think anybody saw it coming. I think people saw that result going that way, but not to the margin of 43 points in the Bombers' favour. So fair play to them. They came out and really did a number. DMU posted quite a disconsolate, I suppose, post, just saying that, fair play to the York Centurions. They DMU kind of, I think they expelled a lot of energy and a lot of their sort of efforts in the last few games of the season, and I think they just kind of came up short in this one. They came up 30 points to 0 losers in this game. So the York Centurions go on to play the Lancaster Bombers. Whether it's a case of just running out of steam, or whether it was a case of a lot of little errors on the day, it was quite a downtrodden post that they put out, but they also congratulated York Centurions on their victory. Coventry just squeaked past Hull. Didn't see an awful lot on this game, in all honesty. I saw the result come through, but I haven't heard an awful lot about either team or the performance on the day. But Coventry got through, and make that matchup that you said against the Pythons that we have already seen. We had a message from Cambridge. I know Isaac mentions the bagpiper quite a bit, but we had a message from the Cambridge Pythons to say that their bagpiper was unfortunately out of action due to an injury. So we hope that they recover quickly and they can be back on the sideline, because it was the Coventry game against Pythons that they sort of emerged, wasn't it, from their or came down from their hills in Scotland, whatever it is they want to do. And first, we first heard, excuse the pun, about the bagpiper. So yes, it'll be interesting to see whether they're back for that fixture in a couple of weeks' time. And as you said, a fixture that we've already seen and kind of have a few data points on to look at when we come to preview that fixture.
Yeah, absolutely. So just for our listeners, Cambridge that beat Sunderland 23-8 and Coventry beat Hull 14-12. So Coventry proving that what we always knew was that they're scrappy, aren't they? You know, that they're scrappy to the point where they will slip up sometimes as well, which they did towards the end of the season, and that shouldn't be surprising to anybody at this point. But you know, they're here, they're in the semi-final, and actually the last time these two faced in this scenario where it's at home to Cambridge, it ended up being 6-0 to Cambridge. So a very close game is on the cards for this weekend. Sorry, not this weekend, in the next round, where Cambridge will be hosting Coventry. And the fact that we haven't seen York versus Lancaster makes this game in the semi-finals very, very juicy and very interesting. And you know, Lancaster, it's odd, isn't it, that they're in the semi-final? They look like they've got all the momentum in the world, taking them potentially into the final and on a run, but they will still be in Tier 2 next year because of the rules in promotion at Tier 2, where you've got to win your division to be able to make it through. And the two divisional winners that are still in this bracket are Cambridge and York. So be very interesting to see how that all plays out. We've done predictions for all the other brackets. Should we save that until it actually comes up?
Yeah, let's save that for the predictions.
Great, lovely. Let's have a little look at the South then, because we had obviously the quarterfinals this weekend, and the semi-final matchups will be Reading versus UWE on one side, the UWE2 that is, because Reading beat Sussex Spartans 18-0 to be able to make that matchup. And then we had the Imperial Immortals get handed to, I suppose, by UWE Bullets, who travelled all that way to them and came out 27-0 victors. And then we had QMBL Quimble, who faced Gloucestershire, and we felt that this was going to be the tie of the round, and it ended up being 12-6 to Quimble Vipers, who will now then face Swansea Titans in the semi-finals, who won 7-6 over the Surrey Stingers. So plenty to talk about there, Stuart, because you know the tie of the round ended up being as close as we thought it was. Gloucester probably had the momentum, you could argue, because of the surprising but high scoring victories that they'd had leading into this. But you know, we didn't underestimate the Vipers at any point, and obviously UWE Bullets now find themselves facing a very good side in Reading in the next round as well. So what were your thoughts in these ties that happened this weekend?
There's two games on this bracket that I know considerably more than the other two games, so we'll kind of tick off the two that I don't really know. I know absolutely nothing about Swansea Surrey other than it finished 7-6. That's pretty much all I can say about that. But yeah, I think Swansea kind of would have thought about being victorious in this one, having had the season that they'd had. They would have wanted to get back on the horse, so to speak, and sort of put to bed that loss to Gloucester that you referenced earlier, and just sort of gone, let's really stamp our authority in this. I was going to say playoffs. They are in the Southern Conference Cup. You still get silverware at the end of it, so great, fantastic. But yeah. And then the other one that I know very little about is Reading versus Sussex. I know that it finished 18-0, and again, from one person that I know that was there, said that it was a bit of a tough slog. 18-0 kind of sums up the overall gameplay. It was very cagey, it was very tight. Obviously 18 points is about 3 touchdowns, so yeah,
and a similar
not
score to what we saw in the regular season, Stuart, as well. That was
yeah, true.
14-0, but it was in Sussex.
Yeah.
But still, it didn't really cause that much surprise, did it?
No. And at the end of the day, all that really matters is you get a 1 in the win column, right? At knockout football, all you need to do is win,
Yeah,
and
whatever
way you do it, just get it done. The other two that I do know a lot about, Imperial versus UWE, we had some insight into the. Obviously, we had Coach Sam Astley on the podcast with Isaac a few weeks ago, which you can go back and watch. That we've eventually got out. I did send a couple of apology messages to him based on my hotel Wi-Fi not being able to get it up. But yeah, there's a couple of people that sent us stuff in. So overall, to start with, the game was a little bit bitty. Let's put it that way. There was turnovers from both teams, more so from UE by all accounts. But once they sort of settled down and found their flow, they were able to then do what they really want to do on offense, which is kind of mess you up a little bit and then just sort of take advantage of that, and also develop a little bit of tempo. I know that Sam has worked closely with a couple of coaches from Sandwell, and they sort of really want to use that air raid type offense, and that is, build up pace gradually and then use the run to set up the pass, and then flicking backwards and forwards using motion and being multiple in what you do. So it sounds like that is all coming to a bit of a head in the playoffs, and they really wanted to knock that sort of monkey off their back from last year of, okay, let's get to the playoffs and then get knocked out. So yeah, I think that they really sort of developed on that ethos. We've had a lot about how the UE defense really sort of held their own, coming with a couple of turnovers that really put them back onto offense, and also they scored off, or they created a turnover on special teams, and then scored straight from it. And that whenever you win the turnover battle on specials, or you score on special teams, you instantly create that disparity between the scoreline. And if you can, one, get the ball off a turnover from specials, and then score straight from it, that momentum for the other team is like stifled the Imperial Immortals on that one, and we're able to sort of, although 27-0 doesn't seem like it was fairly convincing, it's 1 touchdown a quarter, and if you can control the clock with that type of offense as well, you're going to have a good day. And yeah, if your defense is as stymie as I led to believe that it was, fair play to you, and yeah, you will no doubt win football matches like that.
Yeah, 100%. And then did you get any insight into the Queen Mary as well?
Yeah, Depth Chart Sports live streamed it. Yeah. So
Right.
Depth Chart Sports live streamed it. Sorry, I said to you before that I thought I was coming down with something, and I definitely am, but I'll keep myself hydrated. Yeah, DCF live streamed it. Again, I was going to volunteer to do the score bug and try and do some sort of clock management as well. But in the end, I just ended up sitting back and enjoying watching it, whilst also feeding Tebs the score lines from the rest of the division. It was very similar to how the Napier Green game sounds. There was a lot of action in between the 2 red zones, but when you got inside the red zones, neither team could really punch it in. If I remember correctly, there was a missed field goal somewhere, which then turned the ball over. Both teams were driving the length of the field. There's not as many penalties in a Depth Chart Sports game as usual. I don't know whether that's because Brunel weren't involved, or whether it was just a decently well played game. There was a couple of unsportsmanlike conducts here and there. The Gladiators were obviously sort of taking that game to QMBL and really wanted to sort of impose themselves on Quimble at the Quimble's home ground. But in the end, it was in sort of a nail-biting last 5 minutes or so. Both teams attempting 4th downs, both teams converting, but then not able to drive the next set of downs and move the chains again. And Quimble, I think, took over with about 30 seconds or 40 seconds to go, and just scored off a passing play. And as soon as that happened, you saw the Gladiators sort of heads drop, and yeah, you kind of thought that they weren't going to come back and drive that 30 seconds. Not many teams practice situational football, so yeah, I don't think that they had it left in them at the end of that game, following the Swansea game as well, to sort of come back and get the extra 6 points to take it to overtime.
But that sets up two juicy semi-finals, though, doesn't it? Which we'll obviously get into when they come around. They've all got to be played by the 1st and 2nd of April, haven't they? And yeah, there'll be plenty to talk about. I don't think we've got. Have we got any dates yet? Or can have a quick look, can't we?
I think it's the following. I think it's the following weekend.
Fair dues. So yeah, Reading versus UE and QMBL versus Swansea are some incredible semi-finals, which again will lead to a very good Southern Conference Cup final once we get there. And you know, we talk about the semi-finals. That'll lead us into Touchdown Tuesday, which will obviously be 3 of the 5 finals, won't it? And then we've obviously got the Southern Conference Cup as well. But you've then got the yo-yo game, if it gets played, depending on what decisions are made on the back of that final, and obviously the 2 Conference Cup finals as well. So we've still got plenty to talk about, haven't we? Just reading Coach Russ's question here on the fly. Do you think the playoff games take too long, with some unis finishing studies earlier than some and players going home and unable to partake? Sure, you might be able to answer this a little bit better than me because you've been involved in a uni team. Because we're now obviously towards the end of the year. Now, if my uni was anything to go by, we were still going on until mid-May. But what's your feeling on that?
I kind of get Coach Russ's point. And again, it kind of comes back to the beginning of the season where a lot of people are like, we only have our, I was going to say kids, we only have our students for 4 weeks or 6 weeks before we put them in kit and get them on the field. And I just think, what do we want to achieve from BUCS football? Do we want competition? Do we want participation? Again, like the national leagues. Yeah, I kind of see your point, Russ, and I kind of see where you're going at, but I kind of flip that back on its head. I'd rather have guys for 4 or 6 weeks in October, November, or September, October even, and then try and work with them when it comes to playoff football in March, February, March, than have to sort of move the entire season and only get 1 week with a bunch of freshers, and then have to put them out in the field, because some teams, you know, potentially looking at Division 2 here, some teams don't have a huge returning roster, and it would be ridiculously unsafe to put a team of students out on a field of play who have only really had 5, 6, 8 practices tops. So yeah, I get your point, Russ. I sympathise with it, but I'm sure there are more and better ways to keep students around or help them travel back to universities than there are to express knowledge and express ability at the beginning of the season, if we were to move the season to more like a true BUCS season when you start in September.
Well, the other option is less regular season games, isn't it? Which do we want that? Which most of the divisions are actually set up quite nicely, aren't they? Certainly in the Prem and the Tier 1. It's Tier 2 where it ends up being a little bit meh in some situations, doesn't it? And going into April where exams are rife and so on, yeah, I can totally get it, and be interesting to hear what the community think. What do you guys that are listening and watching back, what do you think? Do you think that the BUCS playoffs go on a little bit too long? It is going into the end of March and early April, a bit too long for the BUCS playoffs? Let us know in the comments. What we do know is that Isaac will be coming back with his BUCS weekend kickoff video on our YouTube channel. So please head on over there for previews of each matchup this weekend from Isaac, and he'll bring on some special guests on those videos, which he has been for the last couple of months. Stuart, we had a victim in the last person standing, as you call it, didn't we? In the competition, we're down to 2 into the final weekends of the season.
He has already commented on Instagram, so I wonder if he's already watching. But yeah, unfortunately, Sam Studart went out. I did load this up earlier and it's now gone. He gambled a little bit and went with the Tyrants over the Rams. I think this was more because of who he has picked in the last 13 or 14 weeks. It's kind of really limiting our contestants, let's call them that, in who they can pick. Alexander's still in. He went for Quimble over Gloucester and just about squeaked through. And then Ben Reed went with Napier over Green and again just about squeaked through. So we've still got Alexander and we've still got Ben. We've got 6 fixtures for this weekend, and I shall have a look and see who you guys have already picked and who you guys have left, and sort of see what teams are left, because it's going to be really interesting to see. I think we've had 15 weeks. 15 weeks now, and there are 12 teams left. So if you guys have already selected all 12, then we're really going to have to look at the terms and conditions and see what we can do.
See what we can do.
Yeah, you might just win by proxy because the other person's used all their teams. We did have another 6 people apply, and everybody picked winners this weekend. So by all means, continue to submit votes, even if you are out or if you're not wanting to compete for the £50 EP Sports voucher. Shameless plug. You can still get your vote in, and we'll give it a quick mention on next week's podcast.
Yeah, congratulations, Ben versus Alex, for the title of the inaugural last person standing for Inside Britball, but also potentially the winner of an EP Sports voucher. And it'll be interesting to see who you pick this weekend. Who should they pick if you're listening or watching? What would your pick be if you had a shoe-in for the last man standing competition? Brilliant. Well, thank you, as always, to those who have commented and got involved with the discussion. Thank you, Stuart, again for joining us and giving your insight and bringing together all the community comments that we get and sharing it with everybody, because obviously they're very, very good to listen to. We will be back again next week. We'll bring you the results of the semi-final. We'll look towards Touchdown Tuesday, and we'll hopefully... I feel as if I'm saying this every week. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you a video around fixtures and alignments and give you our insight there as we start looking towards the summer season, which is not that far away at all. And Stuart is hopefully going to get his 1 hour of recreational time once he comes off this stream to go and exercise outside of his prison room. And hopefully you get back okay.
I'll go and keep chipping away at my escape route in the bathroom over there. Don't tell the guards, will you?
Exactly. Brilliant. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and we